Welcome to the Heavenly Tea. You know, that is a pause from the everyday to take in something deeper, meaningful, extraordinary. Pause to think, feel, come to yourself and align with our creation, our creator, our spirit. And in this case, I'm talking my favorite topic, children, our future, and providing the education. So today, what is the difference between what we are teaching and where we need to be? The difference between the system we have been living in, accepting and foisting upon our children, and that which they actually need to what? To become independent thinkers, creative, innovators, people with their own ability to perceive good, bad, right, wrong, truth, falsehood, discernment. All of that is entirely missing from the system. And I'm going to just quickly put it on the table. Now, all of this is in my book. Can you see it? Ta-da! There we go, The Speaking House, with that jumping chap on the front. There's two people, a boy and a girl. Yes, when I put my hands up, it focuses. Look at that. There you go, The Speaking House. This beautiful book is a template for our education. Yes, all these other books here, wonderful, other ones I've written for you to work with your children. You as an adult homeschooling, considering what is the solution. We need to understand what the problems are, because otherwise what we do, we take our children out of school, we think, yeah, homeschooling, and then we look for a curriculum. We look for a curriculum which is basically the same mindset that we are escaping, the same school. So let's talk it through. What we have currently is a little list here. We have static learning, and then we have active, discernment-based, spirit, knowledge-based learning, self-directed. This is all of the area I talk about, using your spirit, your soul, your emotions, your physical body, and all of your cognition. Most of that is never activated in school, so we stick with this. Let's talk it through. We have what's called rote learning. Now, this was Victorian structure. It went back to the earliest schools where someone would read something, you would all read with the teacher, you would repeat, and you would learn. That's still practiced in Chinese schools. It's still practiced in some of our schools. It is still practiced as a template. The government of late, not just our Labour government, but actually successive past governments, because they really are only the uni party, Fabian agenda and the World Economic Forum agenda has been dominating our politics, whether we've realised it or not, and we are starting to realise it, since way earlier than the 1920s. But during that time, they put together their Kalaji plan, the World Economic Forum plan. The Agenda 2021 changed to 2030, all based on creating a very limited mindset for humanity. A humanity who could not reason, who could not question, who had no analytical abilities, who had no perceptive abilities, no wish, desire, understanding of how to analyze and then formulate verbally or written and present. So what they did was they kept rote learning, which was from the earliest schools, back in those little village schools, then the grammar schools. We had rote learning, repetition, speaking out, reading, speaking. If you didn't have a book, you would listen, you would repeat, you would learn, you would remember poems and other things. And that was, yes, developing a certain kind of mindset, however, completely neglecting the integrative cognition processes which we need for innovation and for creativity, all of the imagination tools. So we had rote learning. What else did we have? Scaffolding. The very word scaffold, you hang people from it, yes? Teachers talk about it all the time. Scaffold the lessons. And I've just come out of a school system which every single moment of the lesson was supposed to be designed. Dun, 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 dun. In order to hold the attention of wayward teenagers, let's face it, teenagers who spend all of their time on TikTok, truly, Teenagers who have not any attention span. So the system was quick, quick, bam, 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 bam. Question, answer, question, answer, question, answer, check, check, check. No time for thought, no time for consideration, no time for personal involvement, personal development, no time for consideration, for analysis, for cognition. No, bam, 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 bam. Only then were you a successful teacher. The children, of course, were used to that. If you came up with anything imaginative, anything which stimulated the need for personal thought or reflection, or voicing a perception, or being able to speak a thought, they failed miserably. And it was worrying, deeply worrying, to see the standard of written work, the standard of processing, and the ability, let's say lack of, to express ideas onto paper. It's gone in this system we have been hijacked and held to. So, scaffolding means that every single moment of a lesson is blocked. Every single lesson has a plan, fixed. And yet we're supposed to be open to all learners, all types. How can you do that if you have to also scaffold every single moment of a lesson and only that is considered good? What happens is, it looks good on paper. It's a cursorily good piece of judgment. However, most people fall by the wayside. The middle lot you just about managed to hold. Those who would go wayward, crazy bonkers, traumatized, very immature, all of the dysfunctional behavior, they're going to do that anyway. Those who are super bright, they ended up helping the others, which is a lovely thing. However, it brought them down, and the lowest denominator was pandered to. That's what we are establishing in our classrooms. What else are we establishing? Facts. Facts, just like history, are written by the victor. Facts. Fact checkers, paid for by the victor. We know X is about the only free stream of medium. Maybe Truth Social, pretty good, Telegram. But in terms of an interface where people can talk to each other and spread information, spread real-time news, X is about the only place one can do it now. Because the media, as we know, owned by 6 corporations, it used to be 5, but it's, well, who knows? Definitely all owned, bought and paid for, completely controlled agenda manipulation of our perceptions. And that is what we are exposed to. So facts are those which are determined correct by those who are holding and pulling the strings. And we are pushed and pushing these onto children as though this is right and that's not. According to what? To that mainframe computer system that we're supposed to adhere to, the control system, instead of comparison, opening the field to engagement, to debate, to consideration, to left of field thinking, to open and expand. That is not happening. Let's talk about setting the tone. How your children are learning is still black uniform. Black uniform. Most children are getting up and putting black or grey over their bodies. The colour frequency of that. The frequency vibration is very, very low. It's all about subduing. Colour, sameness. Then, social conditioning of expectation. So if you come along in colour, you're the weird one. It completely drains all the life and vitality and individuality out of the children. Then we have that reflected in the environment. Square rooms, white strip lighting, fluorescent lighting or LEDs, white walls, grey furniture. In older schools, you don't have bright things. Junior schools, they still have lots of different bright art. But the art department, you still have 2,000 pineapples. It's still sameness. We are conditioning. We are putting children in rows, in little squares. Curves are not considered good. Movement, nope, not considered good. the outdoor-indoor relationship. No, it's just indoor, and then you go outside. You might have nice windows. You might have a door to go outside. No one ever uses it. Fire alarms and safety and insurance. Schools are prisons, it's true. Mark Atwood says that so beautifully. Have a good day at prison. That's what he tells his kids. The environment is conditioning. It is limiting. The lessons do the same. The choice of subject, let's talk briefly. English literature, history, geography, whatever. As we said, facts are chosen by the victor, the climate change agenda. Remember, all of those who debated the climate change agenda were unemployed suddenly. None of their data was published. They were put in the bottom of the pile, rejected. They couldn't get books published, they couldn't get tenure. They were not invited for talks anymore. It was removed from the room. And suddenly all you had was the nice, happily bribed, happily fitting with the agenda scientists who fitted with the agenda. That was climate. Same with the way we see geology, geography, human geography, the mass population changes and fluxes around the world. That's international politics, geopolitics, taught in this same way according to who and what the agenda is to be putting into the mind of a child. And remember, when you're 15, you do believe you're right because your education is far more recent than your parents. They're the idiots. Yeah. So easy to condition. Those who studied MK Ultra created this stuff. Then you have choice of subject. Yes, history. Let's go to English. The subjects, they're studying murder and revenge and darkest emotions. Why? Why are you giving that to 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds? Very, very delicate in their development, mostly incredibly immature, and they're studying murder. Murder, teenagers getting away with murder, adults. It's a disgrace. And everyone thinks, oh, marvellous, we're studying Shakespeare. If people actually, with their heart and soul and mind, looked at what is being taught, they would be deeply, deeply shocked. What else? Time structure. Let's talk about this briefly. The time conditioning of school starts early on. It starts from the moment you come out of the womb, in fact. We have our 24-hour clock, we have our 7-day week, and our weird months, and our 12-month calendar. All of that actually false in terms of lunar cycles, the way the world spins. But that's what we've agreed for now, to have this 24-hour clock. Sunrise and sunset is different every single day of our lives, different times, but yet we are conforming to a rigid overlay structure, time the clock. And children were taught from early age to be breastfed at a certain time or fed at a certain time and change at a certain time and go to sleep at a certain time. They were indoctrinated into it very, very early. So the time indoctrination is continued because that way you can, again, control people. They're no longer working with their serotonin levels and the diurnal difference temperature-wise, light level-wise, which stimulates the hormones, which stimulates the endorphins, which stimulates the creativity, the sensuality, the happiness, the joy, the depression. Then we've got the weather manipulation. That's another whole subject. It's outside of schools, but it's still working on us. The children, oh my Lord, they're doing their exams in the peak of beautiful summer. They're supposed to be revising in the peak of beautiful weather. And in the miserable times of year, they have these long terms. They should be doing their exams in the miserable cold times and allowed to be outside studying in joy and discovery when the weather is good. So even the weather is used to control our children. We have the rote learning, the repetition, and let's admit routine. Routine is part of the time control system. Repetition. Routine. People feel safe when there's a routine. It is written into every single educational journal and course. Never questioned. Just in the same way that psychiatry still says Oh, it's all to do with chemical imbalance. That is also never questioned. It's very dangerous when there's something which is never questioned. It has become a myth, an urban myth, a legend. Children, people, humans do not flourish on routine. Ask any creative person. The creativity comes in the strange moments. It comes in the difference, in the differential, in the contrast. It comes in the moments of euphoria and doubt. It comes in all of the liminal zones. With strict routines, you do not get that. We are taught you need to have strict routines in order to do anything, to learn an instrument or a language, homework you have to do. And yet, those countries who have done the studies, like Finland, no homework, the children way more intelligent and expressive. It depends on which studies are allowed to be perceived and seen. And we are starting with these free speech organisms, which are having a hard time, but we still ooze our information around the cracks. My Big Fat Book, yes, is one of those. It is one of the first to come up with a really true skeleton, way beyond Steiner, because Steiner was in his own anthroposophical universe. Montessori, fabulous what she did, learning by doing, autodidactic, help me to help myself, and the many others, Tekos, Anastasia Rinincida's school, Ecuador, the Welt school, Pestalozzi it was, and many other different, Fröbel, all the Forest School. These are good places. But what I'm looking at is a complete turning to what? What enables creativity? What enables excitement? When you are a small person, when you are just fresh on this planet, it's all about discovery. It's all about experience. In fact, everyone would tell you, oh, they need that for their neural network development. Give them as much experience as possible. And that's become more and more available. Yes, they must have near nature experiences. They must have diverse experiences. They must be taken here and there and everywhere. Actually, they don't need that. They just need to be with near natural situations outside. Lots of different plants, seeds, earth, stones, water, fire, animals. That's where they get this enormous benefit of diverse experiences. But this discovery is allowed when you're little, and suddenly they switch it off. It's like, nope, that is no longer needed. You must do what I say. Sit in your chair. And suddenly the human being who was this beautiful, innovative, playful, joyful discovery being, their natural self, becomes a conformist, rigid. And because they are so sweet and adorable, they do it. They do it. And they willingly conform because the sweet teacher seems to expect it of them. When you have experience, when you are allowed to discover, you are also a synthesizer. All of the different elements come together and you recombine. This is the basis of innovation and creativity. Playful experimentation is how I label it. And if we had that system, which is what I talk about in my books, precisely how you can do it, we would have extraordinary minds developing to full capacity all the way to adulthood and throughout their lives. Because you always would have open doors to perception, questioning, personal discovery, comparison, and synthesis of ideas. This visionary outlook of connecting the dots, think of David Icke, would be featured, would be possible, would be encouraged, because it is our natural state and we have abandoned it. Now, this is a little too long. That is a good introduction. I will be picking parts and going in depth. I've got a new place up on the place. I've got a new site called School, SKOOL, which I'm trying out for a couple of weeks. I'll be releasing some videos, see if we can get a little community there, because I can release some courses there. Of course, you can purchase my books. and arrange one-on-one sessions with me if you're just starting to homeschool and you understand suddenly you mustn't do the same duplicate system that a school is doing. You need to think differently. If you want to give your child different results, you have to give them a different circumstance. So I can help you, and one of my books, From Duty to Joy, is all about that, or of course the big fat Speaking House book. You can arrange sessions with me, you can buy the books, the audio books, or you can come also to the courses. So it's a 2-week trial. We're going to see how it goes, and I will be putting out these videos. Thank you so much for watching. I am Dr. Isabella May. This is Activating Our Human Potential at the Speaking House.